Good morning, multiversal heroes, and today is the day. If you've been watching these videos on this channel, I know you are as excited as I am that Season 1 of Marvel Rivals drops today. But season updates come with pretty hefty download time. So if you're downloading something, or if you're listening to chores and you want to listen to all of the lore of Season 0 of Marvel Rivals while you're getting ready to play that season of Marvel Rivals, I have the perfect video for you, and it is this one. It's just a compilation of everything that I've already talked about. If you've watched the other videos, you don't have to watch this video to know what's going on, but I would certainly appreciate it. Either way, be sure to leave me a like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, enjoy the video. The timeline of Marvel Rivals begins on December 6th, 2024, the launch date of the game conveniently. Dr. Victor Von Doom, on a yet-to-be numbered by the storied Earth, has incited another grand plan of his, this time in an effort to break one of the only cosmic shackles he's never been able to avoid, time itself. For those who know Doom and his character, you know that this isn't exactly an unachievable feat. The good doctor has been on the winning side of multiversal efforts to control everything, but even so, Doom is never a satisfied man. In my hands, reality became nothing more than a set of building blocks. History, a thread to be woven at will. But time, that mischievous child, outfoxed me in its play. Reluctantly, Doom must admit defeat. A passage from the Book of Doom. So it seems that time has gotten the best of Doom, but unbeknownst to him, time plays quite the trick on Victor Von, perhaps to show up his insolence for believing that he could capture something, or maybe even just because time found it funny. It just so happens that another Doctor Doom from another timeline was performing the same exact experiments, but time was not meant to be shackled, by anyone to be sure, but certainly not by two people at once. Time being aligned means that if one person has full control of it, another person surely cannot. See, in the Marvel Universe, while there are multiple realities and worlds, certain cosmic entities only exist as one singular being. Uatu the Watcher, for example, there's only one of him for all of the timelines and realities in this particular multiverse. It seems that time works the same way in this story, so when the two separate Dooms try and take control of time at once, it kind of breaks reality. It's similar to a few things that we see the TVA say about the time stream in the MCU. While the timeline can branch and splinter, at the end of the day, it's all one big old time tree. Speaking of time trees, we'll get to that very soon in the story, but staying on topic, the second Doom hails from the year 2099, which is a pretty important year both in the comics and in the canon of the game. 2099 Doom has conquered his entire planet and presumably a few others when he has the idea to try and wrangle time around his wrist, but as we've already established, the 2024 Doom is trying the same thing, and then both of the experiments clash across realities. It's like if there was a very long cord in your house that spanned across two different rooms and you and your identical twin tried to both wrap up the cord around your hands. Eventually you'll bump into each other with two extremely complicated and dense bundles of cord. This has caused a phenomenon that the game calls the time stream entanglement. And boy howdy, it has caused some problems across the multiverse. Entire timelines have ceased to be. The astral plane itself has become twisted up and entangled, and some timelines have even merged together. But the vast majority have begun clashing against each other, creating a very important new element called chronovium. If that wonder material sounds familiar to you, it's probably because chronovium is the name of the Season 0 Battle Pass in the game. But its story implications are far more important than that. Chronovium seems to be a new element that is crystallized in most realities but appears in many forms. We don't know exactly all what it can do, but we do know that it's very powerful and can really fuck with time, which, given time is already in a very fragile state, is not good considering this stuff is popping up in every reality that it's still around. I'll be going deeper into chronovium, what it does, and why it's so important in the next video, but that's all about our cutie pie announcer Galacta, so if you want to hear all of that stuff, be sure to subscribe and drop me a comment down below to tell me what you think is going on in the story after you hear exactly what the facts are. Now, back to Doom. He's really upset after all the Doom in question has lived all the way to 2099. He conquered death, magic, and Reed Richards, for Christ's sake. And he is livid that another Doom, especially one from so far back in the timeline, has, in his mind, risen against his ubiquitous rule. He dubs the fused and remaining realities chronoverses and determines that he alone should be the one to rule them all, which is very on brand. My vote is personally for Victor Von Vroom, a sentient Doom car, but hey, what can you do? Not only is Doom mad about that, but the multiverse is a fucking mess right now, and frankly, Doom thinks it's beneath him to do the tedious task of unwinding all the mess when he feels he didn't even cause it in the first place, despite the fact that he literally did. Which is not to mention the various self-proclaimed heroes of each reality who are popping up to quote-unquote fix things. But in that thought, Doom has an idea. Perhaps these heroes can be useful after all for once. After all, what is there to fear when all roads lead to Doom? Chapter 0, Part 2. Where are we going? Okay, so that's the gist of how we kick everything off in Marvel Rivals, but what does all of that mean for the future story of the game and possible characters we could get down the line? Let's start with the most obvious one. I cannot see a world in which we don't get Doctor Doom as a skin in Marvel Rivals, on top of the Fantastic Four having been confirmed to be joining the game in Season 1 literally the day I record this video. The Defender of Latveria is definitely going to be in sooner rather than later, is my guess. Another character I think we may be getting is a more of a semantic one, but with all this talk of chronovium and time stream entanglements and all of that stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if we got Kronos in Marvel Rivals. And for those who don't know, in the Marvel Rivals universe, and the Marvel universe in general, Kronos is an Eternal and the grandfather of Thanos, the Mad Titan. Being an Eternal, he has a humanoid form, and before a galactic accident turns him into a disembodied cosmic entity that oversees the Eternals at large, and during which time he is appalled by the atrocities his grandson commits, and he even goes as far to resurrect one of Thanos' many victims, a man by the name of Arthur Douglas, who he turns into Drax the Destroyer, a man hell-bent on taking Thanos' head. Now, anyone with a basic understanding of how pop culture loves to jump on its own trends knows for a damn fact that at some point, Thanos will make his way into this game, and with him, I think his daughters Nebula and Gamora are an easy fit. Following that line up, if we have basically all the other Guardians of the Galaxy, I can't see them omitting Drax for seemingly no reason. And if you have all of those characters and a story that you're telling about time, I think Kronos is actually not too far of an out there guess. I mean, we have Squirrel Girl, and most of the internet only know her from memes, so yeah, that's my out there pick. Granted, if the leaks we have been seeing are believed to be true, we have quite a few characters we will hit before any of those ones have the time to actually show up. But remember that I said it. So yeah, with all that being said, this is how Season 0 of Marvel Rivals begins. Doctor Doom threatens to destroy all of creation, again, because he has an ego the size of ego. But while this is all we know of Doom, it is far from all we know about everything that happens in Marvel Rivals. So if you want to stay up to date, drop me a subscribe, because I'm going to go over all of Season 0. And by the time Season 1 starts, which is dropping in like a week, God, it's so close. Let me know what characters you think will make it into Marvel Rivals, or just who your favorite character to play is. First of all, I'd like to tackle something specific that I've been seeing a few places. Galacta was not created by the developers of Marvel Rivals. Her first appearance is actually back in 2009 in Marvel's Assistant Size Spectacular Issue 2. She's also the daughter of Galactus, but not in the way you might assume. She started off as a parasite, almost like a tapeworm, that spontaneously manifested in Galactus, because of the things that would happen to you when you would go around using power cosmic to keep yourself sustained. Eventually, Galacta grew into her own cosmic independent being that functions similarly to Galactus, but not exactly the same. See, Galacta, or Gally, as they like to call her for short, has much better control over her hunger pangs, or Galactus just doesn't care to control them, one of the two. She restricts herself to eating non native organisms on Earth specifically. Galactus has always had a taste for Earth because it's so goddamn appetizing. It's like when you're watching Tom and Jerry and they pull out one of those big bone hams or like the giant T-bone steak and it looks so good, mostly because you can't really have it. But imagine you were immeasurably tall and cosmically powered to bring an end to sentient life. So essentially the same thing. So Galactus spends her time trying to fight off the absurdly powerful urge to simply devour Earth and be done with it. The latest thing to capture her cosmic appetite is a shiny little gem called Chronovium. Now, if you missed the first video about Doctor Doom's plan and how Chronovium is made, first off, go watch it, you heathen. But here's a quick rundown. Chronovium is an element created when realities bash together in the timeline entanglement, essentially making sparks like two blades going at it really, really hard. It can be crystal, it can be liquid, and presumably it can be gas as well. Galacta took interest in this time stream entanglement mostly because of the various realities being destroyed. Since she wields the power cosmic, aka the power of infinite bullshit, she is the one holding together the realities we traverse in the game. That's why we can hear her voice and why she cheers us on, no matter whether you're a hero or a villain. She's the person holding all of these realities from falling apart. She also claims that she would help more, but it's taking all of her focus to keep reality from disappearing. And considering some realities have disappeared, I think it has more to do with Chronovium. Galacta loves this stuff, and for good reason. I mean, she hasn't eaten anything this nourishing in her entire existence. But what exactly is Chronovium specifically? I've teased this topic for like 4 times now, and I've talked about how it's a runoff, a byproduct of the time stream entanglement. But what does it do, and why is it so powerful, and why is it everywhere? Well, chronovium is a crystallized element that's generated by the time stream entanglement and realities clashing together. Galacta describes them as bite sized chunks of pure chronal energy, and when Galacta says they're bite sized, I think you should keep in mind that while she can be as big as her father, she usually appears to be the size of a teenage Earth girl, so the size can probably vary. Its state of matter can also vary. In the story Family Affairs, Ratatasker tells us that a chronal surge caused by the time entanglement causes the world tree, Yggdrasil, to grow wildly out of control. It grew so big, in fact, that it merged with the entire realm of Asgard. And just to take a second to give you the idea of the scope of that, the realm of Midgard, where Earth is not just Earth. It is also the space around Earth and all the planets in the Milky Way. Like it's all of our plane, all of our realm. So the tree got so big that it merged with the entire realm, which is why the maps that we play on are not called Asgard, they're called Yggdrasil. It's then revealed to us that even the sap of Yggdrasil is now vibrating with temporal energy, which Loki is trying to take advantage of, but we'll cover what he's getting into in another video. Yggdrasil in the Marvel Universe is actually an energy field that is supporting and connecting the 10 realms of existence. While it's represented as a tree, it's almost more like gravity in the sense that it permeates the air of every realm, and it's a binding force that holds all of the realms together. And now Chronovium permeates that. So it can't just be a crystal, it has to also be an energy wave of some kind, because Yggdrasil, while it looks like a tree and we think of it as a tree, it's not actually a tree in the Marvel Universe. It's so potent and unique that it has bled into a totally different type of energy field and enlarged and expanded it. So it's safe to say that Chronovium is pretty potent stuff. I mean, hell, even the Master Weaver over on 2099 is trying to harness Chronovium to strengthen the web of life and destiny. Like, this stuff is unrealistically powerful, even in the context of the Marvel Universe. The Master Weaver and Galacta are far from the only people to notice this and to try and harness it. The princess of the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, Shuri, has also found and gotten her hands on some of this chronovium. If you know anything about Wakanda, you know about vibranium. It's an incredible metal that Wakandans know the ins and outs of to a T, especially the chief of science, Princess Shuri. So, when vibranium was modified by this new crystalline element, Shuri began to research it, and her findings showed that crinovium seems to form specifically in places of power or importance, even if what makes the place powerful or important hasn't happened yet. Because remember, we're dealing with timey-wimey bullshit. So we don't know where this stuff's going to pop up at. In Wakanda, crinovium not only forms within vibranium, but also the other way around. Crinovium crystals are forming with the properties of vibranium in places where vibranium would be. So not only does Cronovium have this massive power of its own, but it can also take the properties and other powerful elements of seemingly any other element it comes into contact with, be that energy, metal, ingots, I mean, who knows what, right? That's basically all that we've found out about Chronovium as of right now, but it very clearly is going to be one of the central themes of this game as the story moves forward. I would not be surprised if we get certain renditions of characters that we wouldn't otherwise get because they have access to Chronovium. The possibilities are pretty open ended, and I think it's pretty cool that we're getting our own game specific sort of vibranium or unobtainium, adamantium, like whatever you want to call it, right? I could see this leading to pretty interesting skins. I could see this leading to pretty interesting maps, honestly. Like imagine a world where the Eternals are, because the Eternals, they can build things super fast with their time dilation stuff. What if they have a whole city that's built out of Chronovium because they've had access to it for so many years, you know what I mean? And if Chronovium appears in certain places, it could warp those places accordingly. Like, what happens if Chronovium spawns on the living island of Krakoa? What does that look like? What does that change? Does it change anything? If it doesn't, why doesn't it? But that definitely seems to be one of the major plot things that Marvel Rivals has taken care to sort of embed into the story very early on. And they've made sure that we are definitely only scratching the surface. But that's basically all I had for you on this video. Hopefully you understand Chronovium. And if you don't, leave me a comment down below and we can chop it up. I'm always in the comments. I'm always talking to folks. So let me know if you have any questions about Chronovium or how it relates to the Marvel Universe. I'm not a writer on the game, but I can give you my best guess as someone who's read quite a few Marvel comic books. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications for my next video, where I'm going to be talking about Loki, a pretty central figure in Season 0, given that he has several of the maps that we play on, and what exactly him and Hel did to really piss Thor off, and perhaps give him a shiny new hammer. Thank you so much for watching once again. I am the Riddler, and until the next time Loki, as always, is scheming to have the throne of Asgard, but he's found a new power that might actually help him do that for once. The sap of the overgrown Yggdrasil tree had a powerful magic and essence to it already, but once the time stream entanglement happened, Chronovium seemed to permeate through the sap. He used the sap to brew up a potion that allowed him to see into the future, and what he saw was Asgard destroyed. This intrigued the god, and he brewed again and again and again, but the one thing he only saw one single time out of the hundreds and thousands of visions that he saw was himself. In those many visions, Loki only saw himself on the throne of Asgard once. Seeing so much destruction emboldens Loki. He must be the person to rule. He carefully devises a scheme to maneuver Odin into the Odin sleep and keep Heimdall from noticing until it was too late to stop him. This was no small feat, so the god of lies sought the help of both his sister Hela as well as the Queen of Norns. The Queen of Norns, Karnilla, isn't really a schemer, so if Loki could convince her to help him at all, she would prove to be a pretty safe ally. Hela, on the other hand, would almost certainly betray him, but given her nigh infinite armies of the damned, perhaps the risk would be worth it anyway. Either way, with Hela at his side, he traps his brother Thor in the Tower of Solitude on Yggdrasgard while he executes his plan, but thunder always strikes in Yggdrasgard. Thinking his way around a muffling enchantment placed on the room, which prevented him from calling for help from Himdalir or anyone really, Thor was steadfast and kept in mind that he did not need a word to call Mjolnir to his hand. When Thor makes it to the palace of Yggdrasgard, he sees the enlarged world tree as well as Loki's crew tapping the tree for its chronovium rich sap. Thor wonders who exactly Loki is planning to make deals with all this chronovium he's harnessing, but decides it doesn't matter. Thor can sense that his brother was stronger. Chronovium had empowered Loki's magics, but he was not the only one. Mjolnir, made of Uru moonstone metal, now thrums with the magic of Chronovium. Thor mentions that he can even feel Chronovium through the Odin force. Time out. Holy shit. Chronovium is everywhere and can get everywhere. I kind of want Odin in this game just to see how warping the Odin force with Chronovium changes his power set. Also, a character that could very easily join us in Marvel Rivals. They talk about this character several times in the stories of Loki, Thor, and Hela, but Heimdall, or Himdalir, if you want the real pronunciation, is very likely to be joining us in this game. They keep mentioning him being too late to save them, but in a game that plays with time, maybe we'll get a Heimdall that hasn't missed his opportunity to save the God of Thunder. But back to the story. Unfortunately, as is all too common for the God of Thunder, he sorely underestimates his half brother. Loki, of course, remembered that Thor would call Mjolnir without a word, and he brought backup. Hela appears in a portal that seems to be laced with chronovium, and that's not the only thing. Her entire legions of the damned are laced with chronovium, so it appears that the magic of chronovium has also further empowered Hela's necromancy. Loki dismisses Thor to the legions of the damned, and Thor puts up one hell of a fight, but with no Valkyr, no Crimson Hawks, no Heimdall. The god of thunder could not continue to fight. But before Thor falls, Hela stops everything. She reveals that they intend to let the realms be torn asunder by this mess with the dooms and the mortals in general, so that the realms can be reborn. And with that, they fling the god of thunder into the portal. He tumbles for a while before landing on an earth with things as jumbled as they are. He can tell it's not the earth he knows. And lo and behold, he runs into one big green scientist. From the branches of Yggdrasgard, Ratatasker reaches out to various heroes to help out. These are the games we play when on the Yggdrasgard maps. The payload we are pushing is presumably part of Thor or maybe Ratatasker's counterforce against Loki. Getting it into the room at the end of the map where the roots and the tree and the foliage is very clear and abundant shows that we are breaking down Loki's root tapping project to harvest the sap. And that's also why the spectral form of Loki appears, but only harasses the attackers while they wait to push the payload at the very start of the game. So that's how we get Yggdrasgard and what's going on in that neck of the woods. I'm not entirely sure what we are supposed to assume the defense is doing on the Yggdrasgard maps. Like I don't believe there's a reason given why you would want to let Loki or continue or have Loki continue to dig this sap. I don't know if there's going to be an in-game reason for that or not. Who knows? Maybe we're just not going to question it. But next, we are going to travel across the intergalactic highway to the now space-bound kingdom of Wakanda to learn about T'Challa and a theory that I have about Bast, Shuri, and all of the gods of Wakanda. But that's all I have for you in this video. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Riddler. Wrong universe, I know. But if you like what you heard, Stick around, drop a subscribe, drop a like, maybe drop a comment down below. Tell me who you think we're going to get from the Asgardian pantheon. I mean, we could get Frost Giants, we could get Heimdall, we could get Valkyrie. Who knows who we could get, right? Thank you so much for joining me. We still have a couple more videos in Season 0 before it wraps up. I'm very excited. And thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate it so much. Until the next time I see you all. So, our tale begins this time, as most Wakandan tales do, with the King T'Challa, who broods over the infinite expanse of space, seeing as he's been feeling uneasy about his connection with the panther goddess Bast. She's spoken to him less and less, and when she does, it feels off. To top it off, there's now all of this doom business going on, which T'Challa insists Wakanda stay out of, even after being approached by both dooms to work for them. This matter is complicated when the royal scientist and Princess Shuri brings her findings to the table. Based on her joint research with Tony Stark and Reed Richards, this entanglement needs a solution, and it might be the time stream reintegration device. There's one rub, though, and it's the need for chronovium vibranium that has begun to spring up in the heart of Wakanda. Despite Shuri's pressing of the matter, T'Challa isn't hearing it, and I think this is because of the fact that Wakanda may have left, at least in part because they wanted to get away from people on Earth constantly trying to get their hands on their precious metals. We also find out in one of the stories that they journey into the reaches of space to find the original home of vibranium, the meteorite that crashed on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago. After a brief spat where Shuri insists that if Wakanda is no longer isolationist, they have to, actually help some of the time, T'Challa shuts the talk down but permits Shuri to continue her research with the two scientists. Unbeknownst to T'Challa, Shuri has hesitations of her own. Bast has reached out to Shuri as well, and she senses a great darkness within the goddess that T'Challa will likely overreact to. Shuri keeps this to herself and hires the Guardians of the Galaxy to investigate a flare of dark energy on Clintar, but as they were set to arrive, the connection between them was lost. What Shuri doesn't know is that part of the reason T'Challa is so cagey is not only the issues with Bast, but the fact that her sister and eternal nemesis, the fellow god Luana, has reached out to Bast's champion with a warning. So yeah, T'Challa is juggling a lot, but heavy is the crown, It's then that Bast finally reaches out. She says that she's waiting for T'Challa in the shadows, and that he isn't the only king in black she favors. She's possessed. Bast is possessed. She's like super, super duper possessed. T'Challa realizes that things are not good, and internally he realizes that his loyalty is pretty much only pledged to Wakanda, as Bast is clearly not well. In the story Entangled Moments, Chapter 3, we see T'Challa go to the ancestral plane, which is bleeding into the actual physical plane of Wakanda. He seeks to follow up with Bast, only to have his worst fears confirmed. She's possessed, all right. And with her mentioning favoring more than one king in black, T'Challa has his work cut out for him to loosen whatever grip that is. So that's the whole story, and honestly, Shuri not only being quite present for the presented solution to this entanglement mess, and with her apparently having friction with T'Challa, I feel like both narratively and from a mechanical standpoint, Shuri is going to be here sooner rather than later. I personally really hope that she's a strategist that is like sort of a strategist duelist hybrid. I imagine her as like a really agile, dashing around the map healer, and she can use her sonic gauntlets to like heal people from a distance or something. I don't know. I think it would be very cool. Now, obviously, we had a pretty hard confirm that Null is doing some big shit if he's poisoning gods, but we'll get to Clintar in another video. For now, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to drop a like if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see the next one. I'm doing all of the Season 0 videos until Season 1 drops, and until the next time I see you, everyone, be good
If you've been
people.
watching all my videos on the lore for Marvel Rivals up until now, firstly, thank you so much. I've appreciated all of the support. And secondly, you know that we last left off with King T'Challa's worrying revelation that the god of darkness, the king in black, the father of symbiotes, Null, has corrupted Bast. And in this video, we're going to actually go over how that happened, and it all starts with the perfect human, Adam Warlock. We actually first see Warlock before the entanglement even starts. He has been instinctively entered into his regenerative cocoon, which is a defense mechanism that has kept him alive many times in the wake of cosmic disasters. Adam, in general, is way more powerful in the comics and seemingly in the actual fiction of the narrative of Marvel Rivals. But either way, Adam is roused from his nappy time cocoon by a vaguely familiar bearded man. He laments how similar the bearded man is to Adam, in that they are both getting a good long nap while the universe burns to the ground. Adam soon realizes this old man is in fact Odin, deep in his Odin sleep thanks to the machinations of his son Loki. Once his cosmic senses are awake and thrumming again, Adam's consciousness bumps against a weirdly aggressive Bast. Note that she doesn't necessarily seem possessed here, unlike we talked about in the last video, but Adam thinks of an issue. The Wakanda he knows is still a nation on Earth. And this is when Warlock is brought up to speed by Bast and told that other realities have begun to drift together, almost as though they are being gathered for something to feast on it. Then, like a snap of jaws, Bast goes silent, and Adam feels a corruption spread through her. Then, something even stronger reaches out to Adam. An unnamed celestial that Adam describes as feeling and sounding muted and faded, almost like a distant memory. The celestial says that she has been slain by a primal darkness even older than the celestials, who were for a long time believed to be the first beings to ever come into being. While Adam doesn't sense corruption through the Celestials, he does sense corruption on the Celestial, who confirms that the darkness and poison that killed them is still lingering on her corpse even now. Then, with one final panicked scream, she rings out from her body, her corpse. Beware, child of light. He has found you. Null. Instinctively, Adam's cocoon tightens, and then a majestic bird with flaming wings spanning the cosmos hurls Adam downward exactly where he needs to be. The moment he was gifted fills Adam with resolve. A barely awoken and quite confused Adam Warlock is easy prey for a threat of this magnitude. But a fully aware and more importantly determined Adam Warlock, I mean, not even the Soul Stone is able to deal with that. I'm just going to pause right here for a second because Clintar has a lot going on, so I don't want to wait until the end to explain everything. But hey, a cosmic flaming bird whose wings span the cosmos. I mean, that is basically confirmation that the Phoenix Force and its avatar, Jean Grey, are almost certainly not only going to be joining the game, but they will be joining very soon. Okay, let's pick back up where we left off. So now we join Star-Lord, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot as they crash their spaceship into the ship graveyard that orbits Clintar, while Quill pouts and Rocket scrambles about looking for parts to fix the Milano, their ship, as quickly as possible. Star-Lord begins to fire off on some approaching symbiotes before an explosion scares off most of the encroaching numbers. Rocket and Groot disappear into different directions looking for parts, and Quill decides it's probably best to begin working on the ship. After a few hours, he tries to get in touch with Rocket and Groot, but only gets interference perhaps from the massive floating celestial corpse that lists outside of Clintar's orbit. For the next few hours, while he works on the repairs of the ship himself, Rocket and Groot return with a veritable horde of scrap. The three squabble over how to do the ship's repairs before Quill reveals his genius, I want you to hear these air quotes, genius plan of using the Milano's hyperdrive to enter the negative zone and swap places with the Celestials' remains. After a quantum buttload of technobabble, the Guardians board the Milano and thoom upward. But as they trek briefly across the negative zone, again, just don't ask, this video is long enough, they notice that the ship is claiming that the decapitated Celestial is in fact alive. The corpse begins to shudder as a giant black mass seemingly forms on the husk of the Celestial. The scanner picks up a scan of a person shaped symbiote in a glowing cocoon of some sort. Star Lord makes an executive decision to say, nah, fuck that, which I actually agree with for once. Good job, Quill, and reverses the maneuver, which brings the Guardians back to Clintar's surface. Now, let's jump to or should I say, a Nether Realm. Venom is with Magic, who has them on lockdown, seeing as they aren't from around, where they are in the Nether Realm. Venom isn't sure where exactly they are from, even. Both the symbiote and Eddie Brock hail from a reality that was erased by the time stream entanglement. Magic lets Venom out of the trap they were in, just as Venom is beamed a message slash thought slash feeling from the symbiote hive mind. They beg them to come to Clintar to slay Null before he is awake enough to kill everything. Magic scoffs at the idea, saying Venom is going to need a bigger sword before returning to battle. Venom, strangely enough, agrees with this, thinking that they need to get their hands on All Black, the Necro Sword, which was once wielded by Null and boasted enough power to slay a Celestial. Venom, not that. Venom allows the symbiote to form a brief bond with Magic, who's willing to help but not leave. Luckily, the bond gives the symbiote access to Magic's mutant portaling powers, and Venom bamfs away. There they stood, on the corpse of a Celestial orbiting Clintar, and as they began to pull free the Necro Sword, a cosmic cocoon floated into reach, a cocoon whose presence awakens what is left of the Celestial's consciousness. The remaining fragments of the Celestial's conscious panics, seeing that a symbiote is on its corpse and that it is reaching for this dreaded sword. Venom gives the hilt one last tug, just as the Celestial lets out a psionic scream, sending Venom flying down to Clintar's surface as the blade disappears even further into the corpse. Then, the cocoon is set upon by native symbiotes, to which Venom flings into action. Adam Warlock emerges from within, and once they realize their situations align and that they are there for the same reason, they pair up together. Then, depending on which side of the map you are on, either pushing the payload or stopping it, Venom is either trying to force Null's influence back into its prison or trying to slay Null altogether to take the throne for himself. And that's basically it. That was a long one. I appreciate you all so much for listening. And yeah, I mean, it can be argued that Null is an even bigger threat than whatever the hell Doom is planning. But the real question is, did Null see this as his opportunity, or did he make this his opportunity? Someone had to be sure to push the pieces into the right order to make sure the Dooms were doing this at the exact same time. I mean, it couldn't have been an accident, could it? My money is still personally on Time slash Kronos trying to punish Doom for his omnipresent hubris, but only time will tell. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next one where we go back down to Earth and try and find out what eldritch presence Hydra has awakened. That is, if it's not one of the ones we've already talked about. Thank you all so much for joining me, and until the next time I see you, be good people. So, we kick off with Hawkeye aboard the Quinjet headed to Antarctica on a solo rescue mission. Funnily enough, he's being sent to rescue a post brainwashing Bucky Barnes as he was deployed to infiltrate the base, but unfortunately has been captured. Hydra has, of course, been trying to replicate the super soldier serum again, and Hawkeye is on the case primarily to rescue Bucky, but it's implied by Agent 13 that destroying the research sure would be nice, seeing as they're into something a bit darker and more occult this time. Hawkeye descends on the facility, taking out Hydra soldiers along the way. He manages to find Bucky, but is attacked by a Hydra super soldier after opening his chamber. Just as the super soldier started to get the better of Clint, a mass of squid-like eldritch appendages makes quick work of his opponent. This arm is a part of Bucky now, instead of his usual cybernetic arm. The pair run through the facility as Hydra chases them, eventually coming to a stop in a chamber with a heavy door. Statues adorn the walls, and one had an open and radiating portal. Hawkeye can tell that something is trying to come through, but for some reason his brain won't let him process what it is. Winter Soldier approaches the altar and lets his tentacles slide into the groves. Bucky is then flooded with his own memories, memories of trying to stop this mess, and memories of being captured, as well as memories of them removing his cybernetic arm and growing tentacles in his shoulder. As a tentacle emerges from the portal and grabs at the Winter Soldier, he tells Hawkeye to slice off his arm so they can close the portal. Hawkeye reluctantly obliges, and to their joy, the portal is indeed shuttered, but with it, their only means of possible escape. However, just as the lab starts to come down around them, the portal sparks back to life, and through it comes a spinning red, white, and blue shield. Apparently, Steve Rogers' friends in Wakanda were able to open a portal to this energy signature, though this is not the Steve either of them knew, who had died only earlier this week. They step back into Wakanda, and Bucky is gifted a Chronovium vibranium arm, and he tells Bucky that after the arm is attached, he would need both his and Hawkeye's help with a favor. Now we're going to switch perspectives to the Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, who is in Tokyo doing what she does best, gathering intel for her fellow freedom fighters. She's followed her web of contacts and their intel to look into Alchemax, a multinational super company with, as she describes, far too much power. She muses on how this would be an impossible job for most, even for some of the web warriors, but this Black Widow was over 100 years old and was given the super soldier serum by the great late Nick Fury. Nat has been doing this for a very long time. Trying to keep things as stealthy and non lethal as possible, Natasha employs the use of Krakoan neurotoxin given to her by Wolverine, a fellow freedom fighter. After getting in, she roots through files on an array of topics, including serum research and the long term medical benefits of Krakoan flowers. More importantly, she finds Alchemax's top secret asset, a stone cold, frozen Captain America straight from World War II. After a quick catch up on where and when they are, the two fight their way back up toward the roof before they are separated by an explosion. Reluctantly, Black Widow retreats from the increasingly growing mess, wondering where the captain made it off to. Making a quick jump, we turn our sights to Wolverine, who's not drinking in a bar, but conversing in one with Magneto, the now protector of Krakoa. Logan is a member of the Resistance, committing himself to stopping groups like Public Eye, Alchemax, and Doom. He regales both Magneto and Fred Dukes, aka the Blob, but don't call him that, with his most recent excursion. When the explosion separated Natasha from Captain America, Logan was already on his way to Alchemax HQ. The explosion made him double his pace. Once there, he met up with Steve Rogers, who was being attacked by Doombots. After dispatching them, Logan debates on what to do with the Star-Spangled Hero. He can't take him to Krakoa for two reasons. One, Cap isn't a mutant. The Krakoan gateways and portals quite literally will not allow him to pass through. And two, if Alchemax knew that Cap was being hidden on Krakoa, that would bring mutant kind to the forefront of yet another war. Instead, Logan takes him to a safe house by the Resistance. Before giving him some of that good Krakoan medicine to patch him up, he tells Cap that he should head to Wakanda, seeing as Natasha was smart enough to make a deal with King T'Challa to work together against this doom threat. Cap steps through a portal to Wakanda and soon after saves Bucky and Hawkeye from an eldritch threat. And that is all that I got for you for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, leave me a like and maybe even comment on whatever you want to see next. But this is getting interesting. So in the Marvel Universe, the Great Old Ones do exist. So we could certainly be talking about a very literal Cthulhu. We could certainly be talking about, like, you know, a Shigagorath, or excuse me, a Shumagorath. Or we could be talking about the Marvel specific characters. Um, Things like Chthon and the Darkholders cult. You know, much more specific characters than what we are thinking when it comes to eldritch horrors, because those elder gods, as they're called in the Marvel universe, They were born from the Demiurge, and those are some very active magical deities like Gaia, Ashtar, Chthon, etc., etc. So I'm wondering if the ancient evil is more similar to that. Perhaps that is what is behind the gates in the Hydra maps that we play on. Hopefully, I mean, I hope so. We will see in our next video when we start talking about what's going on the magical side of all of this, now that we have covered the cosmic as well as the alien. And we're going to take a trip into Marvel's magic side, check in with Magic, see what she's been doing, and why she was so reluctant to leave the battlefield she was on with Venom. But yeah, my big hope is that we're seeing some Chthon here. He is the original creator of the Darkhold. The Darkhold is a fragment of his powers. He is also, of course, closely related to Wanda and the Scarlet Witch and all of those things. So I'm hoping we get some more of that, because I love sorcery when it comes to the Marvel universe personally. Um, but yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you like the video. Subscribe so you can catch the next video that's coming out. Season 1 is going to come out very, very soon, and you want to be up to date on all the lore before I start the Season 1 lore. Otherwise, you're going to end up behind. This is how comic books get you. They just keep releasing things. You have to keep up with the videos. I swear, I'm trying to help you. Please. Thank you all so much for watching, and until the next time I see you. And this is Marvel Rivals Season 0. Whose web is it anyway? Yes, I'm very happy with that title. We start with Penny Parker on patrol. She's mostly musing to herself, like most webheads do. She mentions how Master Weaver and Spider Zero spend most of their time these days arguing back and forth on what to do about the time stream entanglement. They both have varying ideas on Chronovium, as does Penny, since she considers doing upgrades to Spider using the mysterious element. But after getting rid of a straggling Doombot, Penny tries to ask the Master Weaver what exactly the deal is with this Chronovium stuff, seeing as she hasn't had a chance to experiment with it herself. Not satisfied with the complete non-answer he gives, Penny decides to lobby the same question at Spider Zero, who she sees dropping pieces of Chronovium through tiny portals after sticking them to pieces of paper. The Master Weaver is teaching Spider Zero to not only listen in on, but to slightly influence an infinite number of other worlds and futures. Spider Zero is taking her responsibilities for the web quite seriously, and according to Penny, is sounding more like Master Weaver every day. Then we shift back across space and time to a New York patrolled by the one and only Peter Parker, everyone's good old Spider-Man, which is also a New York that is run over by vampires. On his average patrol, as usual, Peter suddenly receives a folded paper from someone named Spider Zero, letting him know that the Master Weaver will have use for him soon. I think it's important to take note right here, just real quick. This could be nothing, but when Peter receives this folded piece of paper with a message on it, which we heard about Spider Zero sending those to herself, it doesn't have Chronovium on it. So I think that the Chronovium she's attaching to these notes is, in part, powering the note through time. Like, the reason the note can go through the portal of Web and Destiny as this physical piece of paper is because Chronovium is on it, and like it uses the energy of that to power the portal to go backwards in time. Because Peter doesn't receive Chronovium right here, and that's the only reason I could think of for why, because we know where this letter comes from. Either way, it's shortly after receiving the paper that Spider Zero shows up in person and asks Peter for help in probably as cryptic a manner as possible. Sensing Peter's reluctance, Spider Zero shows him the web of life and destiny through a portal. She explains that this web is essential to all spider people, and without it, they would disappear. And with no spider people, reality would likely be soon to follow them. Peter's good nature flares inside him, but he manages to control it, explaining that his city is really fucked up right now and that he needs to be in New York specifically at this moment. Spider Zero doesn't argue with this, but does let him know that she will be back. Shortly after she leaves, however, Spider-Man is approached by the Human Torch, who lets him know that Blade is back in town to help with all the vampires. What's that? What's going on with the vampires and the Human Torch and Blade? Oh, don't worry about all that, my friends. Those are Season 1 videos. An undetermined period of time after this, Spider Man does indeed take Spider Zero up on her offer and request, traveling 75 years into the future where he meets Spider Punk, Penny Parker, and Spider, as well as everyone's favorite hero, the Amazing Bagman. Spider Zero has brought them all together to form the Web Warriors. The issue is that by the time Peter has accepted Spider Zero's offer, it seems that the Master Weaver has had a falling out with his former apprentice. The Master Weaver has decided that Chronovium must be the solution to these problems and tries to use Chronovium to strengthen and keep together the web of life and destiny. Spider Zero has tried to argue this since they don't know how dangerous Chronovium is or could be. And as a reward for her protests, the Master Weaver banishes them from the Spider Islands. Now, this last part is a little bit of conjecture from my brain, but considering in our inventory, in the battle pass, you know, those useless things that nobody but me cares about, we get a spider totem. I think that the spider totem, which is more than just a statue, it is not just a literal totem, it actually does things. But I think that the spider totem and the spider totem's energy has been laced with Chronovium. And I think that is what is making the Master Weaver act strange. Because in Penny's story, we see the Master Weaver and Spider Zero, and they're still perfectly fine with each other. The time entanglement has already started, and there's no disagreement between the two of them on how they should handle this. So something happens that then makes Master Weaver get pushed over the edge. I don't know if he like just gets more time to think on it or like whatever it is. If someone comes and talks to him, if Chronovium is like poisoning his mind, something happens that makes him very suddenly no longer be cool with his plan to keep the web of life and destiny safe. So I would not be surprised if we got more maps and story beats that are about the Master Weaver. I think it is Chronovium's influence that is making the Master Weaver be like, oh, Chronovium is the only solution for this. Because putting it in the web of life and destiny, that would spread it even further, right? That would spread it to more realities than where it is. I mentioned in the second video, in the Galacta video, when talking about Chronovium originally, I mentioned that Chronovium appears in places of power and importance, even if they are not yet important. So the way that it is capable of doing that, it might be because it gets integrated into the web of life and destiny. So it knows not only because the web of life and destiny is the source of all of the spider people's powers, right? So Spidey sense is like a very, very powerful sense. Everyone remarks on this in the Marvel Universe. It's incredible how strong Peter Parker and Miles Morales and Penny Parker, well, spiders, not Penny Parker. She doesn't technically have powers, but it's incredible how strong their spider sense is. And that is because of the web of life and destiny. They have a limited amount of precognition through the web of life and destiny because the web can tell what's going to happen, not only what has happened. So if Chronovium is put into that web, perhaps that is why Chronovium can show up in important places despite the fact that those places aren't important yet. Like they will be important, and you can tell that because Chronovium's there. That might be because Chronovium gets integrated into the web of life and destiny. But I don't know. Like I said, that's just a total guess for me. That's just an idea that's not confirmed anywhere or written anywhere. Um, but yeah, I think that's where we stand currently in the story of the Web Warriors in 2099. Like I said, 2099 is a very important year in this game. It is where most people hail from, I would say. Most people are from 2099. If not 2099, then 2024. Those are the two constants, which is interesting because there are some outliers who we don't know what year it was in their reality when it went away, or we don't know what reality they originally come from and stuff like that. So there are other years in the game, but the two important ones seem to be 2024 and 2099. Also, please share this video with anyone who genuinely thought that we were getting Ultron next. Like Ultron was going to be a season 1 character. This game literally launches with the entire Fantastic Four being mentioned in multiple people's lore and Dracula being a central antagonist of several people's lore. Like, we didn't talk about him, but Iron Man, Squirrel Girl, all of those people, they don't even mention Doom in their lore pages. They're all concerned about like the vampires and Dracula because that shit is happening right now. Um, so like if you just read the lore, it's pretty obvious that we weren't getting Ultron. No one says anything about Ultron. No one mentions a word about Ultron anywhere. And Dracula and the Fantastic Four are all over the fucking place in lore. But, the lore is, it's harder to get a beat on the lore. That's why I'm making these videos, so that I do it so that you don't have to. If you like this video, check out our Season 0 story playlist so you can get an actual idea of what and who is likely coming next in Marvel Rivals. Until I see you again, which should be later today, because we got to get these videos out. It's already January 8th. Be good people. Bye.
Our story begins at 177A Bleecker Street within the hollowed halls of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Dr. Stephen Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, and his trusted ally Bats the Ghost Dog are greeted by a visitor who Strange says has traveled a long way. It turns out this visitor is none other than Victor Von Doom. Bats howls that the Sanctum is meant to be intruder proof, to which Doom dismissively replies that perhaps they are in need of more powerful protection spells, or a better watchdog. Strange diffuses this by saying stronger protection would be unnecessary, seeing as magi as powerful as Doom are quite rare to come by. Dr. Strange even goes as far as to straight up claim that in the realm of the dark arts, Doom may very well be his equal, which leads him to his question for the monarch of Latveria. What could Doom possibly need from him? Doom explains his not at all wild ass plan to bend time around his hand like a smartwatch, to which Strange replies, obviously, this doesn't seem like a good idea. Doom being Doom is like, nah, it's a great plan. Actually, in this moment, we get a glimpse into why Doom even wants to do this. Reference is made to events in Doom's past that, if redone with what he knows now, would be much different. Doctor Strange can, of course, relate to this, but his teacher, the Ancient One, had shown him one of the truths of the universe. Fate is in the hands of no mortal, no matter how powerful they may be. Doom then reveals that he wants a spell written within the pages of the Darkhold. The Darkhold, or the Book of Sins as it's sometimes called, was referenced in our video about Hydra, where I theorized that its author Chthon may very well be who Hydra is trying to bring through that portal. Strange firmly declines Doom's request despite having the book. A big part of Doctor Strange's whole deal as Sorcerer Supreme is to keep relics like the Darkhold away from the hands of really anybody, including himself. Doom reveals that he intends to read the vampiric verses out of the Darkhold in order to cheat death the same way Dracula and his immortal legions did centuries ago. He posits that given time, he could use the spell to work out Time's secrets. Strange has not changed his position on any of this, to which Doom is not surprised. A magical battle takes place with the two magi slinging referential spells back and forth at each other. However, you don't fight Stephen Strange in the Sanctum Sanctorum and walk away a victor. Doom is restrained by Strange, to which the Latverian simply says, "Release me and I will depart in peace." Bats, being the only person with a functional frontal lobe in his head, says that that is a terrible idea. But the Sorcerer Supreme counters with the claim that if Doom is anything, he is a man of his word, which is indeed true. Doom saunters out of the sanctum and no less committed to his idea of manipulating and controlling time. But the Sorcerer Supreme is resolute in his stance to defend reality should Doom overstep his position. Before he departs, Doom leaves Strange with a cryptic warning. He says that the House of Truth, another name for the Sanctum Sanctorum, may be safe, but those outside its wall will soon be drowning in darkness. Doom makes his exit, and Strange immediately grabs the Darkhold and puts it in a portal that is in a portal for safekeeping. Strange returns to his studies, and a few months pass. Yes, a few months. As you may have already guessed, this all takes place before the time string entanglement even happens. So after being turned away from the Darkhold, Doom tries to So after being turned away from the Darkhold, Doom tries a different experiment to cage time itself that, as we know, fails due to another Doom doing the same thing. Stephen Strange senses Stephen Strange senses a massive disturbance across time and space, and while he doesn't have the time to figure out exactly where it's coming from, he does have a very, very strong guess. Despite having only a fraction of the second, Doctor Strange performs an arcane ritual attempting to protect his reality, but the spell does not expand outward quickly enough, and only the Sanctum Sanctorum is sent to the mirror dimension. The mirror dimension, being a part of the astral plane, has basically been sent to creative mode, and the Sanctorum is now drifting across the time stream. Luckily, the good doctor is so mystically potent that he manages to jump out for short periods of time to help where and when he can. But Stephen Strange is not the only one to try this. When she does, she can sense how fragile reality is after all this mess. But it is quite odd to her when she hears her name whispered across the void of magic. See, in this timeline, it is Wanda who's the Sorceress Supreme. Her unique connection and mastery over chaos has ironically turned her into a pillar of order. Much like Stephen Strange we just spoke of, Wanda feels the ripple across space and time, but thanks to either mastery of chaos or distance from the inciting event, Wanda was able to grab hold of the surge of temporal energy and keep it in check until a second wave hit, thanks to there being two dooms. All the same, Wanda's timeline would have been one of the many to be erased were she not essentially forcing it to stay in place. Then she hears her name again, but this time she thinks she recognizes the voice. This is Stephen Strange. Not the Stephen Strange she knew. He had died in the first Demon War when hell itself spilled into Las Vegas. The Stephen Strange we spoke of earlier has been reaching out to every Sorcerer Supreme he can. The Stephen The Stephen Strange we spoke of earlier has been reaching out to every Sorcerer Supreme he can manage across the realities in order to request help for his timeline. Being stuck in the astral planes and jettisoned across the time stream has left Strange lost. He cannot get himself back, or he could, but the time it would take would give Dracula enough time to gain control of everything irreparably. Strange had finally dropped the right keywords to spring Wanda into action. Even with it being long gone from her timeline, she knew the dangers of the Darkhold. Wanda began peering into astral planes, and most of what she sees surprises her. She even sees the corpses of an old one she had recently defeated to protect her universe. Wanda refocuses and Strange catches her up on Dracula's schemes. Dracula has moved his castle to Central Park in New York and used an imperceptibly powerful spell to stop the rotation of the moon, plunging New York into endless night. Strange then introduces Wanda to Chronovium, something she was totally unaware of, much to her shock. She mumbles that she may have been too distracted in recent memory. But, I mean, who can blame her? It's got to be pretty hard to literally hold reality together. Wanda decided she's finna get active and asks what Strange needs and also where the Darkhold is. Strange only needs help re anchoring to his home plane, and as for the Darkhold, it was in the astral dimension, but it has fallen into the hands of Khonshu, the moon god, who threatened to utilize it to fight against Dracula. The only issue with this plan is Khonshu has no plans to spare the innocent lives that have been enthralled by Dracula. Khonshu, however, has a crippling gambling addiction and an addiction to fumbling easy wins for his plans, but that's neither here nor there. So Strange has managed to challenge the god to a game of chess for the Darkhold. Wanda wishes Strange luck in his chess match and begins trying to find Strange's true body and the Sanctum Sanctorum to return them home. Though, given her penchant for chaotic magic, it might not be so simple. And that's everything for this video. And also everything you need to know for Season 0. Are there details I haven't gone over? Yes, but that is because I think they're most relevant to what's happening in Season 1, so I'll be making separate videos on those. I will also be making a compilation video so that you can watch all the lore videos in one. Thank you all so much for the support on these videos, and I cannot wait to tackle Season 1 as well. Hopefully on a slower schedule, because I'll be doing the videos as I go along. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed what you saw. And until the next time I see you all, be good people. And that is it. My goodness. That is over an hour of me talking in your ear. So if you have fallen asleep to my luxurious voice, you're very welcome. And even if you're not asleep, thank you so much for watching this entire video. I'm so excited for Marvel Rivals Season 1, but I'm even more excited to keep making these videos. They're very fun, and a couple of people have told me they're super helpful. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to grind away in the Battle Pass so I can get all the gallery pages and read all the stuff that nobody else cares about, because that's what I'm here for. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like. And if you're interested in the content that I make, subscribe. I'm gonna keep doing it. So even if you only see me occasionally on shorts or reels or anything like that, or if a friend sent you this video, please just make sure you enjoy it. Enjoy the game. I think there's a good story here so long as we actually go out and read it. Um, the writers are committed to making this comic booky as hell, and I really vibe with that. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. And until the next time I see you, be good people.